Within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time.
The Legion of Dans. The meeting will come to order. The Legion of Dans is now in session. It is the purpose of the Legion to align our infamous forces against the power of sad collectors and defeat them, leaving us, the rulers of the toy world. To do this, we have gathered together 4 of the most ruthless and happy toy fans on Earth. The noisy Daniel Lynch. The flexible plastic Dan Newman. The pixelated Dan Erdley. Not to mention the wise old elder and insider myself, Daniel Pickett. We are the Legion of Dans. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Legion of Dans for our second fun-filled episode. I'm Daniel Pickett.
I'm Dan Newman.
I'm Daniel Lynch.
And I'm Pixel Dan Erdley.
Welcome back, my Dans. It's so good to talk to you once again.
Woohoo!
I'm here.
Woo!
Now, since our last episode, 2 of our Dans have had birthdays.
Oh, yeah. Indeed. We're all getting old. Well, some of us.
But we're not growing up. So, Dan Newman, you had a birthday.
I did. I reached the ripe old age of 42.
Okay. And then Pixel Dan, you just recently, right?
I did. Just a few days before we're recording here, I hit 33.
So I guess we have to get it out of the way. Did you get any toys for your birthday, either of you?
The only toy that I got for my birthday, I bought for myself.
That's all right.
I got the Marvel Legends Directors 3-pack. I found it.
Oh, nice.
Found it at Toys R Us. I was really excited. Found it on my birthday, so I was like, "Yay!" and bought that for myself. So yeah,
Very nice.
That's a good one.
I did not get any toys, but sort of in a convoluted way related. I got a really nice gift certificate to my tattoo shop because I've been cooking up an idea for a new tattoo. If some of you who know me know that I've got a full sleeve that tells the entire Silver Surfer story, and then I've got devil dinosaurs across my chest. And I've been thinking about what to do on the other arm, and it's been tough, but I finally decided to do at least half of the arm in a Xenozoic Tales theme, which maybe some people know as Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Oh, wow, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, until...
Is it going to... So you're saying just half the arm?
Yeah, I think just well, we'll see. Still working it out.
And he's not kidding about his pectorals. He has got both the red and the green devil dinosaur across his chest.
That is cool.
if I can admit to seeing Dan without a shirt on. We've been whitewater rafting together, all right?
Pectorial? Pectorial?
His pectorals.
But with the pictures, they're pectorial, right?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
See what you did there.
I think you're on it. So the other big news since we last spoke is Toy Fair.
Oh, yeah.
Half the Dans were there. The other half were at home following it online. Daniel Lynch does a great thing over on itsalltrue.net where he does, what do you call it, like armchair coverage?
I stay up all night bringing links to the fans that are homebound like myself.
Which is great, but it's great for us, too, there, because there's so much to see. And so I go back to the hotel, and while I'm like uploading all the pictures and all that, I go to It's All True and look at the armchair coverage and go, well, that's what I got to go see tomorrow.
I was going to say, the folks that are sitting at home watching this stuff unfold on their computers and guys like Daniel doing the armchair coverage, I guarantee you know things faster than we know them while we're there at the show. Because,
that is true.
Yeah, like people will be sending me messages while I'm there talking about things that I had no idea because I hadn't even seen yet, or heard about. So, yeah, man, guys like you are... you're seeing it way more. You're staying up to date on it a lot better than those of us who are there.
This year was really fun with Instagram, like it just being a lot more popular this year. That's kind of been the thing. You can just kind of surf Instagram and just kind of watch the pictures roll in just right away. It was really kind of neat. I remember when we started it 5 or 6 years ago, you know, you kind of had to do it early in the morning because you guys would get home, you'd post your stuff, and it would go back to the, you know, you'd link to all the websites, and it would kind of be a slow thing. But anymore, it's just in the last 2 years, it's just crazy. It's up almost as soon as you guys see it. And just watching, like I said, the Instagram and the Facebook updates, and just seeing tons of stuff. It was a crazy, you know, just during the shows how much rolls out right away anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I use Instagram a ton because it's so easy just to go put it on Instagram, and then it sends it to the Facebook page and the Twitter feed. Yep. And it's just like, sometimes I would almost forget, like, ooh, I can update the site from my phone too.
I know. Isn't that cool?
Should maybe do that for the regulars.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy just how the last few years have really evolved, and it just shows you like how it's all changed with, like, you know, cell phone technology and everything, because they're even so much faster and everything than they were just even a couple years ago. Because I remember even like when I was first starting to use Twitter, just a few years back, I was trying to post a lot of pictures to Twitter, and it was even hard to do it then because you had to find the right part in the building to get good enough, you know, signal for the picture to actually upload. And now with Instagram, it was just all day long. I was just like boom, 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 throwing up pictures on Instagram, and it was automatically feeding to my Twitter and my Facebook. It was, you know, it's so easy, and that's especially good for me because everything that I'm doing is video stuff, which I can't get back. I can't put online until I get back to the hotel and export it and edit it and upload it, you know, so that way throughout the day I can at least post some pictures and stuff.
And that's kind of another weird thing that's different. I've been doing this. I've been going to Toy Fair for, I think, 10 or 11 years now.
You were typing it up on typewriters when you got back, right?
That's right. No, honest to God, I think my first one I developed film. Wow, I'm not kidding.
I don't doubt it. Yeah. It's changed a lot. I mean, this was my 6th one already, which is crazy that I've been doing for so long. But, you know, just talking to some guys who've been doing this for a long time, like you, like I've talked to like Jay over at Toy News International. He's been doing it for a long time, and just the way he talks about how it used to be, like when he first started coming, it's just come so far. I mean, everything is so instant now, you know.
Yeah. And the other kind of strange thing, because of social media, you know, it used to be like I would just put everything on Action Figure Insider, and that's where my audience went. Right. But there's a different audience for each of these, you know, platforms, which is kind of strange to think about.
Yeah, that's true. It makes it hard sometimes to decide which platforms you're going to populate. Like, are you missing out on, you know, a certain site or technology? It's hard to focus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like with IAT, it's been hard to because I focus on the website, and so the website, I mean, it gets traffic, it gets hits, it's awesome, but like I always get frustrated with the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook because they don't really get as much likes and attention. But it's honestly just because I don't take that time to sit there and like, okay, I got to put this to the web, I got to put this here, I got to put this here. Right. Like, so I know that it's on me, but it's just always like, I'm like, man, like it's just hard to build those up just because it is so separate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, good year overall, a big showing. There was a little bit of weirdness, I think, that a lot of people noticed, like the Mattel's press thing was a little strange this year without Scott. It seemed a little unfocused.
Definitely.
Just kind of, they let us in the room, and a guy came in and said, hey, I'm this new guy, and here's a bunch of stuff. Go look at it. Have fun.
Here's the things. And then you'd say, hey, can you tell me about this thing? And he'd go, oh, yeah, it's great, isn't it? And, you know, like, it was just that you didn't really have the information, and it was just really, really different from what we're used to seeing the last several years.
Yeah, and for Hasbro, too, their presentation, I think we all knew we weren't going to see anything Episode 7 related. They kind of said that ahead of time, but when they just got up and they said, here's how you build a lightsaber, and here's Chewbacca Furby. Yeah. Good night, everyone. And that was it for Star Wars.
Yep. Wow. Yep. And they wouldn't even tell us anything about Star Wars because when we got into the actual showroom and they had nothing there for Star Wars except for a few of the Black Series figures that were already out or that we've already seen. And I asked them if they had anything else to show us or when they could show us something, and they were staying completely tight-lipped. They're like, well, can't say anything. All we can say is that we've got a plan. Like, that is all they would tell me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was just nothing for them with Star Wars, which was kind of a bummer.
Why do you think that was? Is it because of a lockdown, or was it because they're just not ready?
There was definitely a lockdown in that I talked to a couple of inside people that were saying that Lucas was actually telling people, you can't even say that you have the license for episode 7. And they all kind of went, you're crazy. This is Toy Fair, and your movie comes out this calendar year.
Right.
We have to at least be able to say we're on board, you know? So like Revell, almost their whole booth was just white boxes with a logo that they created, you know, that said Star Wars The Force Awakens. And like,
That's amazing.
Yeah. Just saying, here.
So weird.
But part of it, like Rebels, we now know there was a 2-pack that tied into the season finale.
Yeah.
That they didn't want to spoil. So we know but the other weird thing about Hasbro was normally they tell us at least 2 or 3 of the Comic-Con exclusives across the board, you know, for Transformers or G.I. Joe, and we got none of that this time. Yep. So that was very strange.
I definitely think those were some of the biggest questions I was getting too. Like, what's the San Diego exclusives? And yeah, they had nothing. They had nothing for that. And we did know going into this that there would be nothing for G.I. Joe. Like, they actually gave us a heads up before Toy Fair where they said, just so you guys know, we have nothing for G.I. Joe at Toy Fair. So we knew that going in, but the Star Wars was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't figure we'd see much Episode 7 stuff, but just the fact that there was nothing. I mean, you know, even back at Comic-Con, they showed us a ton of Black Series stuff I wasn't expecting to see. And then at Toy Fair, nothing. You know, it was so
for either scale of Black Series.
Which is just so bizarre and kind of a bummer because I really enjoy the 6-inch Black Series line, and I just was hoping to see some more cool stuff. So that was kind of a bummer.
So is the assumption then just kind of be that when it does finally catch up to us, that it's just going to all be Episode 7 strictly then? Like, I mean, that's kind of the thing that I was kind of thinking about when we didn't really see anything. Was that since there's nothing really for them to talk about that I don't know. I wonder what the mix is going to be if it's just going to go. Kind of like how Transformers does every year. You know, in the movie years, you would get exclusively movie product, and if you liked the vintage stuff, you kind of had to wait for the off year, and it would kind of cycle back.
Well, and Star Wars has done that in the past, though, too. Like, they've done that in the past a little bit.
But we learned today that there's no off year.
Oh,
that's true.
And today they announced the standalone movie for 2016 and Episode 8. So,
oh man,
how does that work?
I don't know. They must have just said, all right, nothing on Star Wars until we're ready to talk about it. They probably just shut the whole thing down. Yeah, and plus Star Wars Celebration is coming up, so maybe they're going to do something at that. I don't know.
That's true.
I think we'll see something there.
Yeah,
in April.
Kind of like because they're doing something for G.I. Joe at JoeCon, right? I think Hasbro says that they're going to have some kind of product at JoeCon, so it could possibly
I hope so.
be. Yeah, me too. It's in my hometown. It's going to be here. It's crazy.
So do you guys?
That's right.
Do you guys get the feeling that just kind of the dynamics that we've been used to up until now are sort of changing in that companies are picking and choosing which events they're going to reveal things, whereas in the past it was kind of a given that it would be Toy Fair in San Diego, and now maybe there's more options and they're picking and choosing?
I think part of it is just because J.J. Abrams is directing, and he locks everything down. He didn't even want that teaser trailer that we've seen to exist yet.
Yeah.
So
that could be.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see sort of as it rolls out, you know, the other movies, how it works. I know they want to make a big splash with Celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. Danny's point is interesting to think about, too, and I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of plays a part in a lot of stuff. Not maybe necessarily just Star Wars, but like toy companies across the board, because just in these past couple years, we've seen so many of these companies use major news outlets to reveal all their stuff before Toy Fair even starts. Yep. And, you know, a lot of these companies are going to just various shows now, especially when there's specific shows for a specific property. So, yeah, that's definitely possible. I mean,
yeah, I was wondering about that, and then, of course, the news this week that Marvel is sort of going to not have a presence at San Diego.
Oh.
That was pretty huge.
Yeah.
Did we get official confirmation on that yet?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that we did. I was talking to a Marvel person this week that had not heard that for sure around the office. So.
Oh, okay. It was
I take it back.
It was definitely a news story that kind of broke and spread yesterday.
Was it attributed to James Gunn? Was that who it was?
Yes. Yes.
That's who started.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe it's true that Marvel Studios won't be there. Yeah. But again, you know, that started the wild speculation of, well, you know, is this another Disney initiative where we'll see a Marvel celebration?
Right.
You know, we know that, like when they announced the Phase 3 movies, they just did their own event at the El Capitan.
Yeah, they could do that. Plus, they've got their D23 convention or whatever too, right? Their own Disney.
Yeah, the D23.
Yeah.
I think that's August. So yeah, that could be what they're holding out for.
Could be. This is crazy. What crazy times we live in. Yeah.
The speculation runs wild.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what we saw there and what we liked and what we're looking forward to. Anyone want to start that?
I'll jump out with those Ghostbusters classics from Diamond Select, because that was completely off the radar for me. That was just like, you see that little Dan Aykroyd and you're like, wait, what the heck is that?
Yeah,
And
that's like a
huge.
genuine surprise. Yeah, that was cool.
I knew they were coming, but I did not think there was anything they could do to make me want to rebuy all those again, 1 inch taller.
No joke.
Yeah.
And they are beautiful.
Yeah,
They
I
really
was sold
are.
on those the minute I saw I'm still kind of picky on that Winston head sculpt, but there were some of the pictures made it look better over time. But yeah, I mean those things, those were bought. That's done. Those,
And the fact that you're going to get the bases that create the rooftop with them.
oh, that's crazy. That took a little while to kind of get out, because it was kind of something that didn't really flip over to the internet right away. I remember trying to have to hunt that down. I think I actually asked you about it. But yeah, I mean that's just to get the whole diorama and have the 12 figures, and then I think they said there was the price listing that included Dana already, so they were already jumping to the non-Ghostbusters too. So that's just going to be huge for me. And then the bigger style, the fit with the Nika stuff, and it's all just going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm waving you can't see me wave my hands in the air, but I'm like, it's amazing.
There was also at the QMX booth, the Quantum Mechanics guys, they have some little stylized figures, and they're doing Ghostbusters as well. And they are the only people that I've seen that were able to get the cigarette in Dan Aykroyd's mouth.
Oh, wow.
So they ran it by, they sculpted it like that, and they ran it by the licensor, and they were like, you can't do that. And they were like, show us a scene that he doesn't have that cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And they go, okay. So
That's amazing.
I thought that was significant. Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't even think about that, because those are the little cute ones too. So
Right.
Yeah. Cute with a sticker.
Yeah, that's the company that's doing the mini masters also of Firefly, correct?
That's right.
Ah.
Those look great.
But they really do, and it's not as if other companies aren't doing nice Firefly product, but somehow these, because they're a bit stylized, they really capture the essence of each character.
I completely agree. And even in person, they just look dynamite. They're really adorable.
Well, we're all going to have to get that Dan Aykroyd figure, if for nothing less than the fact that his name is Dan.
That's right.
That's right. You're absolutely right. How about you, Danny? Did you see anything you besides the Firefly guys that you really dug?
Yeah, I gravitate to all these nouveau vintage style things. So probably in that category, the things that I was most excited about was the Biff Bang Pow Kiss figures and the Flash Gordon figures. Both of those are really exciting to me. I'm not a fan of Kiss. I wasn't a fan of them as a kid, but something about those figures is, sort of irresistible to me. I'll definitely be getting those. The Funko / Vinyl Sugar figures, very cool. Every time I saw a new one pop up, I got more and more excited, especially when Napoleon Dynamite and Pedro came up. That's a huge fan. I love that movie, and so to see more product for that was awesome. In that regard, the Seinfeld figures, I'm going to get a Newman figure.
So you'll have Danny figures and a Newman figure.
Amazing. Wow,
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. There's a couple of the things that got me excited when I saw them pop up.
All right. How about you, Pixel Dan?
There was always a lot of cool things there, but I think what I was really kind of the most surprised by, as far as like me personally being really excited, was a lot of the stuff that DC Collectibles had out on display.
Sure.
I've already really been liking the animated stuff they're doing, and I remember last year being really excited when they first kind of unveiled that animated line. But yeah, I've been totally blown away by just how big they're already making that line, and all the characters that they're doing, and that Batmobile was so amazing to see in person. But one of the other things that I really liked, especially after seeing them in person, was their new line, the new DC line, which for some reason the name...
The
Icons, yes.
The new 6-inch
So it's the
line,
new, yeah, the new 6-inch scale line, which like basically looks like DC Marvel Legends, or like kind of, you know, it's very similar to that scale and that style. But I personally haven't ever been like a big collector of DC Collectibles product, mostly because it's in that 7-inch scale, and just like the way the articulation was and everything, never really appealed to me. I always bought like the Arkham stuff because I really liked the Arkham games, and I loved the animated figures. But like these Icons are like the first time that I've been like, whoa, like I really like these. And since I'm more of a 6-inch scale kind of fan anyway, like that was totally appealing to me. And I know some people are kind of, I can totally understand if everybody's been collecting like the 7-inch stuff from them for so long, and now they're doing the shift, and that being a little off-putting. But to me, that was like them totally like welcoming me in with open arms, like, come on, Pixel Dan, buy these toys. Like the accessories and everything that they come with are awesome. Like Flash has got that treadmill, and you know, like,
well, Deadman having that little Deadman visage that clips onto the other characters.
How cool
That's
is that?
awesome.
Oh, that is so neat. And like the Green Lantern's like a deluxe figure because he comes with so many like constructs and armor pieces and everything that you can put on him. Like all of that is just so cool looking. So I'm very excited about that. I think that might have been one of my favorite things out of all of Toy Fair, just because I was so impressed by it all in person.
Completely agree. Yeah, that animated stuff. I know, you know, people had issues with the breakage on some of the first wave, but they had Killer Croc there with the new kind of plastic, and let you know, they let us kind of handle it and pull the hands off and stuff. It feels so much more sturdy and just a great toy.
Yeah, they were really flexing that around, too. Like, they did that for the video that I did with them, because I asked them, and they're like, yeah, here's this new Killer Croc, and boy, they were just bending that thing all over the place. So, I'm really hoping that they got that issue fixed, and we definitely have to give them props for, like, really being on top of that. Like, their customer service has been so great with them, like, addressing those problems, because they're so passionate about what they're doing there at DC Collectibles. You know, they really love that stuff. So it's cool to see them, like, actively trying to correct this as quick as they can for everybody.
Yep, absolutely, I agree.
It's not necessarily my thing or whatever, but just scrolling through the galleries, I had to kind of stop short when I saw the Gotham City Garage Harley Quinn statue on the motorcycle.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you remember that piece, but it's just stunning, just beautiful.
And there was kind of two versions of it. They also sculpted it with a sidecar that had the hyenas in it, and they tried costing the whole thing out, and it seemed to be too expensive, so they were scrapping that. And Diamond looked at it and went, well, hold on, maybe we'll do something where we can maybe add it on. So
my goodness.
They just had a photograph of it with the extra sidecar. So
that's
cool.
I don't think they know yet if that's going to happen or not, but it was just kind of nice that someone stepped in and said, hey, hold on, let's have a look at that.
Yeah.
And if we're talking DC Collectibles, we also have to go back to the like near 10-year wait for that Dr. Fate helmet. Right? Now for me, I have to cry because they waited till I have reproduced and have a son. So there's no way I'm ever going to be able to afford that helmet.
Well, there's two different versions of it.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and one is like 24 karat gold. The one they actually had at the show was the screen used one from Constantine. Yeah. So it had you couldn't put it on. There were metal bars across it to keep it properly on the stand. So
that thing has teased me for, I think, I've had to look at pictures from 2007 of Daniel Pickett holding it. I've seen all these pictures of it just as it pops up every once in a while. I think I saw it as a Halloween costume piece at one point, like just ridiculous.
Yeah, Kevin wore it.
Kevin, he did. That was so awesome. He was the Grant Morrison, the Doc Fate costume. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so finally it's like it's going to exist, and hopefully my comic shop will have it up in a display case somewhere so I can bask upon it and be like, wow, and then move on.
That's right. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I think for me, the stuff I really dug, first of all, I got to break the news right before Toy Fair about Gentle Giant doing the Jumbo Superpowers.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. These Jumbo figures, man.
Yeah. And then it was a complete surprise to me that because normally Gentle Giant does not come to Toy Fair, but they sent one of their sales guys, and he had prototypes with him. And I was there, like, when he took him out of the backpack, and he was like, "Hey, you want to see these?" I'm like, "Yes!"
Oh, man.
So I'm totally hook, line, and sinker for those guys.
Getting them all?
What's that?
Get them all?
I'm sure I will.
All 34?
Those jumbo figures are so cool, but gosh, man, all that big stuff takes up so much space. It's hard to find.
It really does.
If they'll make like a 4-foot tall Hall of Justice, though, I'll go all in.
Oh my god. That's hot on the heels of them doing the Marvel Secret Wars stuff too, because I did already jump on pre-ordering the black suit Spidey.
I have to have him.
Yeah, I had to have him, and I'll probably get the Wolverine too, just because I always loved that figure when I was a kid. But yeah, so then the superpowers too. It's just like, oh my goodness, what are they doing to me?
And then the Kenner Batman animated ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It is tough, and it's the same thing with Randy when he's talking about making all the old Kenner Alien figures.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, how
it's like you just keep punching me in the nostalgia bone.
Yeah.
And it's not fair.
Yeah, I mean, I've been excited about those for a while, because when they did the Predators, they first talked about how eventually he wanted to get to the Aliens, and we're getting closer and closer to that now, and it's just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, NECA, that's another company, man. I always love NECA stuff, and I've been such a big geek for their video game 8-bit
that Godzilla
stuff. Yeah, the Godzilla and the Gremlin both.
Awesome.
I was so excited for both of those. So, and I had a conversation with Randy. I don't know if you saw this, but we actually talked about it in the video I did with him, because I asked him, since we got that Batman, which was a total shock, they were able to do that NES Batman and then turned it into the actual movie Batman, and he told the story of how that whole thing came together. I asked him what the possibilities were of getting the NES inspired versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he said that he's actively working on that with the Turtles people right now, trying to get it to happen. So, oh my gosh.
He told me the same thing.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, I just, I didn't think that could happen. But man, after that Batman, I feel like anything's possible.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they want to take our money from us, they will find a way.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing that I didn't think I would like as much, I liked Scooby-Doo as a kid and watched it a lot, but it's not something I feel like I have to collect everything that comes out. But marrying Lego and Scooby-Doo, those sets were so charming. I was just so struck by how charming they were. I'm just like, I have to get those when they come out.
I showed those to my wife, and she's like, you have never once in 12 years said the word Scooby and Doo together ever before. I was like, no, I know, but still.
That's a brilliant license for them to get, because no matter how you feel about Scooby-Doo as an adult, almost every kid, to a kid, loves Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the possibility of a video game for that?
Oh
yeah.
Lego Scooby-Doo the video game? Yeah, that'll be hot. Yeah.
Yes. Some sort of deeper cut things that I don't think as many folks were talking about that I thought were kind of cool. Jazzwares is doing some of that papercraft stuff.
Yeah.
It's been really successful with them for Minecraft, but they're starting to branch out and do Marvel, Ninja Turtles, and Star Wars. And they're not just doing sort of papercraft figures, they're doing papercraft play sets.
Uh-huh.
And there's a great Death Star play set. They wouldn't let anyone take pictures, but it will work with 3 3/4 inch, and it will be in my home.
It's pretty sweet looking. Yeah, it's neat because it's just cardboard Death Star, but it's 3-dimensional, and it's kind of like that cut open look. So you've got the different levels inside that you could totally stand little figures on and stuff. It was pretty impressive. I liked it.
Yeah. That was pretty neat. And
like we mentioned, the QMX stuff I thought was pretty cool. And then another company, who was it that had, like, Cryptozoic, which is really a game and card company, had some interesting things that I don't even quite know what they're going to be yet, but they had some artwork on the wall that was like old school sort of 40s and 50s like fan club packets
Oh, right.
from comic books that look pretty cool. And then they're also doing something, it looks as if they're creating the DC universe as if Fleischer had done more than just Superman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
so
I
they
saw
think
the
they had...
the
Yeah.
Batman cover. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the main guy wasn't there, so the other guy was kind of trying to describe it to me. It's like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures of that right now. That's right up my alley. That's great.
Absolutely.
And Mezco's 112 line was pretty awesome because we got to see the mutant.
Oh, yes.
And I thought we might have seen maybe a teaser for Dredd, or maybe we'd seen Dredd, but Dredd was pretty awesome with the Lawgiver. Or am I misremembering the name of the bike?
No, it's the Lawgiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool whole setup with all the different stuff in there. So that line, that's something that just seems to be like it's pretty awesome.
Oh, man, yeah, and I just took a look at that 112 Batman, the black and white one. Gosh, man, what an awesome action figure. Like, that just got me really excited for that stuff, too. Just, it's so impressive. I really think Mezco is, like, doing something pretty special with those, you know? That's such a great idea for a line.
Yeah,
and it feels like they're excited about it.
Yeah, they seem so excited about it. Yeah, that's really cool. And the Mortal Kombat stuff they had looked really nice, too. I really liked those. And I like that they're doing both, like, the 6-inch scale and the 3 3/4 inch scale with them. And they're basically the same characters, just in the two different scales, because they want people to be able to buy whatever scale they want with them. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, totally. They really look dynamite, and all the extra little, weapons, and hands, and all that sort of stuff was great.
Yeah, and they're just doing stuff based on the new Mortal Kombat game currently, but they've got the license for Mortal Kombat as a whole. So if things go well, they do want to do some of the older costumes and stuff too, and I think that would be awesome. So here's hoping.
And I think one of my favorite things, this didn't get a lot of coverage by anyone, and I'm surprised, but around the back of one of the four-way displays over at Underground Toys, there weren't any action figures, but they had an entire shelf of Downton Abbey products.
Really?
It was like serving trays and towels.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I didn't see that anyway.
It's just like, wow, we have reached a new licensing plateau when it's like, here's all your Downton stuff. So yeah, I mean, but no action figures yet. I'm holding out hope though that we'll get like a Mr. Bates.
Some reaction Downton Abbey.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. There we go. Like an angry Carson, and yeah, that'd be great. They did have a 5-inch Sherlock figure that also you couldn't take pictures of. It looked really great. So, and who was the other? Titan, the little vinyl guys had some cool Sherlock stuff too that I'm sure will tempt me once it's in stores. So, but yeah, overall it was a good show. It was a little strange this year in that it started on Saturday. Traditionally, it starts on Sunday.
Yep.
So it always used to be that you'd have to fly in time for Saturday because Hasbro would have their event, and then the Horsemen would have their show off-site that night, and then Sunday the toy fair would start normally. But this time the Horsemen were at the show with their own booth, and Hasbro just they're still the 800-pound gorilla, and they just dropped their thing square in the middle of the day off-site.
Yeah, well, they're like, well, we're not moving it. We've always done it this time and this day, so sorry, Toy Fair. So
and everyone else kind of had to plan around it.
Yeah.
And,
well, boy,
especially that
I was going to say
that first day was busy.
It was insane, and it caused a lot of scheduling problems, I know, with a lot of the other toy companies, because I know you and I talked about this a little bit beforehand, but all these toy companies were sending these invites out to their press events, and I had to keep going, you guys might want to consider changing your date because Hasbro's at the same time and it's off-site and everybody's going to be there.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah, it caused some scheduling problems. And then, yeah, Saturday was just insane because you were at the Javits first thing in the morning, then we had to go over to Hasbro in the afternoon, and then, back to the Javits if you still wanted to get more stuff over there. So it was pretty crazy.
And the day starts usually with Lego at 7 o'clock in the morning.
7 a.m. Yeah.
And for me, who just flew in, about 14 hours earlier, that's still 3 a.m.
Ugh.
So that was a very long day. So I was glad that there was no Horseman event that night, because I don't know that I could have dragged myself out to anything else. It's just like, my wife took pictures of me sitting on the bed, like uploading pictures, dozing off, that night. I think she took some video, too. She thought that was hilarious.
That's what we need. We need to start getting footage of what it looks like for us to actually do our coverage portions. Because that's how it is with me too. I get back to my hotel, I crawl in bed, I have my laptop on my lap, I sit there and start editing stuff, and my head starts nodding, and I'm falling over, and oh no, I gotta get this video uploaded. So
yeah.
See, I always joke that if I ever actually go to one of the events, I'm not going to cover it. If I ever go, there won't be armchair coverage, but there also won't be regular coverage. I'm just going to be hey, this is cool.
Just going to go. Yeah.
That's not a bad way to go.
You wouldn't believe the things I saw.
Yeah.
Too bad I didn't cover it, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
You'll never guess what happened next.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's almost, I've been doing this so long, I can't remember a time, especially going to Comic-Con, where I just got to go as a fan.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just wander around and see whatever I want.
Well, usually how it works, Daniel, is you're so busy covering and doing interviews and photos and uploading and so forth that pretty much I feel like the only time you have to enjoy con is Sunday morning. And a lot of times we'll all get together and just kind of walk around and do a little meandering, but that's about it.
That was Abby's suggestion. My wife, she was like, let's divvy up all the booths. Let's give everyone deadlines.
Yeah.
Everyone finish your coverage by Saturday, and then Sunday, let's just walk around and see the thing.
That's awesome.
It's just that's revolutionary.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That's usually what I try to do at San Diego. By Sunday, I'm I'm done. There's nothing else going to happen today, so I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
But if you're ever able to stay to the very end of Toy Fair, we weren't gonna go the last day, which was Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Or was it two? Yeah.
It was Wednesday.
We weren't gonna go. That was I was just gonna take my wife around the city and do some stuff and just kind of have that be her day because she had been helping me, do nerd stuff for 4 days straight. And so we did that, and we kind of hit the three main things that she wanted to do. And she was like, "Do you want to just go back for a little while?" And I'm like, "No, it's fine." She goes, "I'm totally okay with it. I have nothing around it." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's just go back." And thinking it was going to be open longer, it actually closed at 4. I thought it was still going to be open till 6. But at some point, the booths before the show's open, they just start packing up. And they don't want to haul this stuff back, and they're just giving stuff away.
Wow.
So I got some mini-mates from not the Diamond Select, but the actual Diamond booth. But I saw a guy in the press room that had the entire new wave of the Simpsons NECA figures, the Weird Al wave. It was just they're just, because they don't want to pack it up.
Right, they don't want to have to say, yeah. I definitely see that. That's awesome.
So...
well, now you just gave that hot tip out to the internet.
Yeah.
So
at 4 o'clock.
I'm going to be running against them.
Next year at 4 o'clock on the last day, everybody's going to be walking in.
That's right.
There's going to be an edit, let's face it.
That's right. I'll cut that out. That's just for us.
Well, for those of us who aren't at Toy Fair, just want to say thank you guys for all the hard work. We realize it's not all fun games.
No. Yes. And like I said, armchair coverage can't happen without you guys going, so absolutely.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
My blisters also say you're welcome.
I'm happy to do it. It's a fun experience. I'm always really exhausted while I'm there, but when it's all said and done, I'm just happy I get to do this. It's really cool. now.
And this year there was a little bit of snow one of the days, but it was so bitterly cold at one point.
Oh.
You just wanted to yell at the city.
It was like,
what are you doing here?
It was like negative 18 degrees that one morning when I had to walk down to the Javits. It was awful.
We did the same thing. It was the first time in my life my mustache has frozen. I had like a scarf wrapped around my face and just, exhaling carbon dioxide, gave a little moisture in my mustache, and it froze.
Well, that wind doesn't help, that New York City wind whipping through those buildings. Oh, man. It was... And
the Javits Center is right on the river.
Yeah.
So there's nothing blocking it. And it's just blasting you, right? Oh, it was pretty miserable. Just that, it was 2 mornings it was that bitterly cold.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
But that's February with Toy Fair.
Yep.
You never know what you're going to get. All right, is there anything else anyone was excited about that they want to bring up?
We know that Jeff Cope is going to be listening, so we should give a 3 3/4 out shout out, right? Because there was Biff Bang Pow had those awesome Twilight Zone. There was Kiss, Flash Gordon, and then Funko had Jaws, Flash. And Funko was crazy.
Funko
Fifth
was
Element,
crazy.
Karate Kid. You got a Daniel figure. Got to have that.
Yep.
That's right.
But I think the Jaws, was the biggest Funko thing for the reaction line. That was crazy.
Oh, and the Gremlins.
The Gremlins. I know, and all their little accessories. Those were all awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
I have to buy all those.
Yeah.
But I was surprised, they had Arrow and the Flash, stuff like that for reaction too. It was pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Funko is they're just a beast when it comes to those licenses, man. It's crazy.
Like getting to see the Doctor Who pop vinyl and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, holy cats!
I'm pretty excited for the Sesame Street ones. Not even gonna lie. The Sesame Street pop vinyls look so good.
They do look great.
Yeah.
How about they're also doing the Garbage Pail Kids, aren't they?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they got that license.
They're calling them they're like big mini
mystery minis or something.
Yeah, they're big mystery minis. So they're going to be in those blind boxes, but they're bigger than their actual mystery minis line. They're actually like pop vinyl size almost. They're big. So those are pretty cool. Yeah.
That's how they get us. And I thought the EMC Toys, who normally do Mego, or the Re-Mego as some people call them, they kind of jumped on some of Diamond's licenses, and we're making some cool lunch boxes with thermoses, which we don't see very much, and then their little green army men.
Oh yes.
Of Universal Monsters and Aliens and Colonial Marines.
Wow. Yeah.
That stuff was cool.
Yeah, and they're also doing Ghostbuster style in that style too.
That's right, Ghostbusters and Ghosts. Yep.
Jeez.
Very cool.
So much cool stuff.
But the fact that they're doing Universal Monsters and Angry Villagers, it's just I don't know how you don't buy a bag of it. I just love that stuff.
Somehow I'm accumulating a tub of Green Army Men style figures.
Yeah.
Some are old. I mean, some are kind of like the old Marx, figurines, but there's a lot of new ones coming out. And the most recent ones I got are in that style. They're a little bit bigger, but they're called Yoga Joes. And I know Yoga Joes was at Toy Fair as well.
Yeah, they were.
Which started out as just this Kickstarter. This guy had this idea to create Green Army Men in yoga poses, and because I happen to be kind of, I do a lot of yoga, and I've got a whole community of friends that. Are
and
from that
you teach yoga.
So
on occasion.
So when that Kickstarter hit, I feel like I got about 20 posts to my Facebook page of people saying, "Hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see this?" And of course, I'd already backed the Kickstarter for some dumb amount of money. But I just finally got those in the mail. They finally released and were made, and I don't know, just a lot of interesting lines that are being done in that format now.
Well, we might have the creator of Yoga Joe's on the show because his name is Daniel.
Yes.
Amazing.
So we'll see. We'll see if we can get him as a guest.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Another good Toy Fair stuff. Still going to keep leaking out and spread. There's still people announcing stuff after that. You think what possibly could be left? But there's still new announcements and all sorts of stuff coming out. And
and Comic-Con is just around the corner, which seems shocking.
Coming up so fast. I couldn't believe. Like, I just kind of realized that today. I was like, we are just months away from that.
Yeah,
big show. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the Toy Fair experience for 2015. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and conquer a topic that we all came up with, and I think will be fun. And that is, do you want to tell them, Danny? You actually came up with this one.
Oh, sure. What is your favorite childhood toy or toys that is not an action figure?
It's a good question. Yeah. Does anyone want to go first? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I'll go first. I've been giving it some serious thought, and and it feels like everything I had was action figures or action figure related. But I hit upon the most awesome toy of my childhood that was not an action figure. I could sit in it. It was the Little Tykes Cozy Coupe. Okay,
nice.
No, this is back before there were silly eyeballs or anything funky that made it look weird. It was just the classic little red and yellow car. I had the gas pump, and I would just fly that thing around the house and pump it up with free gas constantly. It was amazing. And I thought about it because there's a picture actually of me when I was, however old I was, 5 or 6. And my mother had set up in the kitchen where they had me unwrap it, and I wouldn't look at her. So she's all ready to take these pictures of me, and there's like 3 pictures, and all of them have me facing the other direction, like you can see my hands over my mouth, like, oh my god, it's insane. But I just ended up looking the complete wrong way and ruined everything for them. But they've still kept that the whole time of the back of my head, and then the Cozy Coupe to the sides.
Nice.
So, yeah, definitely the Cozy Coupe for me.
All right.
That's a pretty early memory. It always surprises me that people that have vivid memories of like before they were like say 5 years old, because I certainly don't.
I had that car. I definitely had it that early, and then I had it for a long time after. I was luckily a small child, so I got to play with it for years longer than some of the taller people around, probably.
Nice. You're still pedaling around the neighborhood.
If I could. It's not so much a height thing as much as a width thing at this point, but if I could, I would totally do it.
All right. Well, let's see. For me, I was more of a Tinker Toy guy than a Lincoln Log kid.
Okay.
I dug those. Had a lot of Fisher Price Little People. Had like the Sesame Street and the Haunted House. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Had Weebles. I remember a ton of Weebles.
They wobble. They don't fall down.
That's right.
They wobble.
For my ride, I had a Green Machine.
Was that like a big wheel?
It was kind of a souped up big wheel.
I remember those. Yeah.
I've noticed they've actually started to re-release it now. I saw some at Walmart.
Nice.
But the odd thing for me with the new ones is they're not all green. They've got like a red one and a black one, but they still call them the Green Machine.
Green Machine. That's
kind of bizarre.
Yeah. kind of they're missing the shtick on that one.
Another thing that I loved was the Big Track. Do you guys remember Big Track?
Describe it.
Yeah, I think it might have been Coleco. It was kind of like a little tank, like a moon vehicle.
Did it have 6 wheels?
Yeah, it had. Yeah, it kind of looked like treads.
Okay.
And you would program it.
Oh.
You would tell it like go forward 5, then turn 8, and then go forward some more. And then it had like a laser light on the front. And then there was a separate thing you could buy that was like a dump truck sort of thing that you could plug into a little port that kind of looked like a headphone jack.
Oh.
And then you could make it like dump whatever's in that little back bin. And it was one of those things where I got it and I thought it was the coolest thing. And I remember circling it in the catalog. And I had 2 cousins that were very similar in age to me. And we'd always get together and have like a big family Christmas on Christmas Eve. And everyone thought that was going to be such a hit at the thing. And people would fight over it that they bought the other 2 cousins the exact same thing.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
I was just sort of like, hey, but that was my thing. So it was a pretty cool little vehicle. And my dad was a history teacher for a long time and then started teaching
computers when computers started entering the school system. And I remember he actually took my big track to school to help train the kids how to program.
Oh.
Because it was that same sort of concept of make this, do this, and then do this, and you'd have this whole string of things. You know, in the commercial, they made it seem like, oh, yeah, you can send it to the kitchen, it'll, make you a sandwich. But, like, just trying to figure out in your mind, like, oh, well, that's probably, like, 16 lengths of this thing, so I put in 16, go there, and then turn, and for a little kid, like, oh, how many degrees is that? 30 degrees, 60 degrees. 9 degrees, that was a little tricky, but I love that big track. That was a pretty awesome thing. And around the same time, Radio Shack had that Armatron that was like a little robotic arm that,
Oh, yes.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And it was supposed to be like a game where you could like stack things or whatever, but it just became a big evil robot arm.
Right.
Shake him around.
Oh, that's cool.
Hey, that's famous now. It's in Iron Man. So, see.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So those are some of my favorites.
Sweet. Well, as far as like the ride on vehicles go, I had a Power Wheels when I was a kid that I loved. Mine was like a police motorcycle, Power Wheels. But I used to love that thing. I always remember riding that thing out in the driveway. But I always remember, and I don't know if Power Wheels are the same today. I'm sure I'll find out in a matter of years when my son's old enough. But, man, they didn't last long enough. Like, the battery would die in it, and then it would take forever to recharge the battery for that thing. I remember always being bummed out as a kid because I wanted to ride my Power Wheel and it would be dead in 20 minutes and we'd have to get it charged and it would take hours to charge that stupid battery just so you could ride it for another 20 minutes. It was bad. But yeah, I had one of those. One of the things that I really loved when I was a kid was my Teddy Ruxpin doll.
Oh.
I loved my Teddy Ruxpin.
Sure.
I had a Teddy Ruxpin. I had tons of the books. I remember going through multiple Grubbies, which I remember Grubby was like a sidekick, the caterpillar guy, because he never worked. Like, I remember every time my mom would get me a Grubby and he just wouldn't work and she'd take him back and she'd try it again. I think I went through 3 of those before she just gave up and was like, no more Grubbies. They don't work.
The phrase "going through a bunch of Grubbies" means something else to the kids.
Careful,
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. It's a joke. Come on.
Oh man, yeah, Teddy Ruxpin was awesome. I loved it, and there was a cartoon.
But the premise with Grubby was like they talked to each other or something, right?
Yes, they interacted with each other. So like when you connected Teddy and Grubby together, there was like a little cable to hook them together. So when Grubby was talking on the tapes, the Grubby doll would actually be moving his mouth and blinking his eyes and saying his lines from the stories. So it was actually pretty cool. And all of those, like, animatronic toys from Worlds of Wonder were pretty cool for the time. Like, they came out with a bunch of those after Teddy. Because they did, like, there was Sesame Street ones, and I think there was a big Mickey Mouse, because my brother got the Mickey Mouse one eventually. But those are cool. I actually still have my original Teddy Ruxpin to this day. And he works still. Because I got him out and was playing with him with my son not too long ago, trying to show it to him. He didn't quite get it yet, but...
I'm surprised no one has redone those with, like, Bluetooth technology.
Yeah, it seems... Because he did come back a few times, like... Because the original one used cassette tapes, and then when it came back in, like, the 90s, it had, like, little cartridges instead. But I don't think he's really been around since the 90s. I'm kind of surprised they haven't tried again at this point. Because you're right, something with Bluetooth or, MP3, all that stuff just seems like it would be so much better these days, right? It seems like it would work a lot better.
What was the gameplay like with Teddy Ruxpin? I never had one. I mean, I obviously know what it is, but I don't really know how you interacted with it.
Well, all he really did was he basically told you a story. So there were these books that came with a cassette tape for him, and you would plug the cassette tape into his back, and when you turned him on, he would basically read this story. But the story had, like, the voices of all the other characters, too. So it was kind of like... It was kind of like listening to a cartoon while following along with the little storybook. It was really cool, actually.
Okay.
But there was a robot bear in the room.
But there was a robot bear who was actually moving his mouth and blinking his eyes. It was amazing. Yeah, he was cool.
Closest thing I can think of is, do you guys remember that Justice League Unlimited episode? It was the Christmas special, and Flash goes to talk to I guess it was an orphanage of kids, and what they all wanted for Christmas was that like dancing ducky or something like that. And
Right.
Flash had to go find one, and of course they were sold out everywhere. And he had to eventually enlist the help of Ultra Humanite to get one and then fix it after it was broken.
I do remember that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
With Teddy Ruxpin, you have to be careful what you wish for if he comes back, because we had this conversation with my wife a little while ago. I think it was Play School. It was a robot called Alfie, and you would slide the little cards in him, and he would talk and the light up, and you'd press the little buttons. And see, they brought him back, but he's just not cool. So
Really?
because he's all like hipster now. I don't know. He's got this little
of course
smile,
he
and he's funky, and I was I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, no, we got to go back and get an '80s Alfie. Like it's like it'll be fine. So yeah, we have to track down an '80s Alfie if I want to give Sam an Alfie.
Yeah. Well, now even if you find like a Teddy Ruxpin, it's like good luck finding tapes and stuff.
Yeah, the tapes are actually the most expensive part now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe on another. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can actually track down Teddy Ruxpins pretty easy, and it's not even too hard to find them in working condition, but the tapes are expensive when they show up on eBay. It's crazy.
That's how they get you.
Yep.
Yeah. The other, I don't know, a few months ago I was at a vintage store here in Phoenix, and I stumbled on this kind of robotic-looking toy that had an 8-track cassette slot in the front of it, and I kind of looked it over, and I saw on the back that it was made by Mego. I'm like, I've never seen this before, so I bought it along with about, I don't know, half a dozen 8-track tapes. I brought it home and looked it up, and it turns out it's this robot called the 2XL.
Yep.
And do you remember that, Daniel?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Which is amazing, and I won't talk too long about it right now in this episode, because I feel like we should actually play some of these tapes on a future episode because they're amazing. They're hilarious. But it's crazy that using 8-track cassette technology, they were able to build a pretty decent interactive toy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Anyway.
He's a great looking little robot. Well, do you have any others, Pixel Dan, that you want to mention?
You know, the only other thing that I feel is definitely worth mentioning, but I don't know if this is cheating or if it kind of goes out of the genre of toys. Guess it depends on how you look at things. But I sure did love my Nintendo Entertainment System when I was a kid.
Well,
That's fair. That's fair.
I did have my Atari 2600 and ColecoVision on my list. I didn't read them off, but yeah.
Television.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I started with an Atari 2600 and a Commodore 64 in my household because my dad had both of those, and I played lots of games on those. But when the Nintendo came out, it was over. Oh, my goodness. Every weekend, every Saturday morning, it was like, get up, play the Nintendo. Here we go. So a lot of my childhood was spent on that video game system for sure.
I feel you.
The Atari 2600, I remember vividly the Christmas that we got that, and it was my brother and my sister and I, and that was kind of like a big joint gift for all of us. And we had a pretty good idea we were going to get it that Christmas, but, my mom played the trick of, well, that's all the gifts for this year, and we were all like just heartbroken, like, where's the Atari? And, a little later on in the morning, she said, oh, there's one more behind the chair or whatever. And
got you good.
I was telling that story to a friend recently, and they're like, my mom did the same exact thing with the Atari 2600.
Well, back in the day, those were a lot of money for parents, so you wanted it to have an impact.
Yeah.
But of course it did, because everyone had, you felt like you were the only kid without one.
Yeah.
When you didn't have it, you just went bananas. And yeah, I mean, when you think about how far we've come from just the one sort of rubber joystick and the one red button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, man, back in the day, we thought that was a magical wonderland.
It was. Totally was.
Ugh.
Well, I don't know if it's my turn to talk about my favorite toy.
It is your turn.
Okay. I was just sitting down at dinner with my wife, and I was telling her about this, and she said, well, how about that big Godzilla thing you had? And I said, well, that's a little bit too close to the action figure category. She said, well, what about Stretch Armstrong? And I said, that's sort of close to the action figure category too. So I tried to stay as far away from that as possible, and I was drawing big blanks because apparently the majority of the toys I had as a kid were action figures. But then I remembered a few things. One must have been real early on, because as I've done the research and looked it up, it's a pretty old thing, and it's essentially a rack toy that was called the Amazing Spider-Man Web Shooter. Oh. It came on this yellow card with this nice picture of Spider-Man in a little plastic bubble, and it was essentially this little role play thing that you would strap onto your wrist, and you could, press a trigger and a rubber dart would shoot out of it, and it had a little string on the rubber dart, and it was like you were shooting Spider-Man webs. And even though I must not have had it for a while, or it must have broken rather quickly, it's so burned into my nostalgic memory that I have to put it on this list of favorite toys, because I have such a clear vision of it. It's the type of thing that, like Plaid Stallions would have an article about, and yeah. I've gone and looked it up on eBay, and I've had a hard time tracking one down, but that's definitely seared into my brain.
So they had a bunch of those, again, because it was like a rack toy. So there was a Batman version, a Captain America version, and a Hulk version, and they would advertise them in like those Hero World catalogs that were like the comic book size. Right. Catalogs where hand-drawn art by the Joe Kubert School. Uh-huh. And yeah, it was the same sort of thing. A lot of the toys in those days, you went through like a dozen of them, because they would, they did not last long. So right. Yeah, I remember the same thing. And that the spring was never quite strong enough to make the dart stick to anything. But just the fact that you were able to make the Spider-Man web shooter gesture.
Yep, that was it.
And then an action would happen. Yeah. That's all we needed.
That was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one I had on my list was I wasn't too big of a car and truck guy, but this one I definitely liked and got a lot of serious playtime with. It was made by Play School, and it was a battery operated monster truck Bigfoot, the 4x4x4. And I would say it would probably be scaled to like a 3 3/4 inch figure size, although you can't put figures in it. But it was like I said, a battery operated Bigfoot, and it had on the top of it like a couple like gears, like there was a forward and reverse on one of the gears, or one of the shifters, and on the other shifter there was like 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and neutral, and you could shift those levers and it would go, and it was pretty tough. It would kind of like obviously what you want to do with a monster truck, you want to run over stuff. It was like powerful enough to do that, which was cool. Pretty sure it also had like light up headlights and so forth. But any of you guys remember this or have any recollection?
I do. Yeah, because it was actually licensed from the actual like Bigfoot monster truck.
Yeah,
right?
It totally was.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like most kids, at a certain age, you go through a professional wrestling stage and go through a monster truck phase, and I definitely went through a monster truck phase.
I never knew about your monster truck phase.
Feeling it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and I don't mean to go off track too much, but I grew up with a single mom family, didn't see my dad too much, but of the few times I saw my dad when I was a kid was him taking me to a monster truck show at Madison Square Garden in New York. Like, it was something I really wanted to do and see, and I just remember my mom saying, like, well, call your dad. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. And so I did, and I don't know, by some miracle, he decided to take me, and we went together to this monster truck show, and it, ended up being a, really fond memory of the few times I got to spend with him as a kid.
And just fire shooting out of the tops of trucks.
Right, exactly.
Rolling over other cars.
Yeah, like good father-son bonding.
Yeah. You'll pay for the whole seat, but you'll only use the edge.
Yes.
That sort of thing. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So
there's a lot of good stuff. I grew up, of course, in the time of like Rubik's cubes, and which I was terrible at, and that Merlin game. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
That weird. It kind of looked like a big telephone, and it had like 9 games on it, and the only one that you really knew how to play was tic-tac-toe. it was a simple sort of push button light up thing.
Right.
But yeah.
My goodness, how far we've come.
Yes, indeed.
I watch Elliot playing Minecraft on his little iPad, and my mind is boggled. I have no idea what's going on. He's 5 years old.
I don't get that. Like, I've tried to play Minecraft, and you just keep digging.
You do. You just keep digging, and eventually I said, maybe you should start trying to build stuff. Well, Didi, I don't know how to build stuff. Well, what? And sure enough, a few weeks later, he's building these like amazing structures, and I don't know. It's just one of these things that you got to spend a lot of time with, I think, and eventually you start figuring it out.
I guess I didn't spend enough time. It just seemed like, well, I'm digging. All right. How much digging do I need to do?
Yeah. Yes.
Ah, you kids today.
Yeah.
With your Minecrafts and your hula hoops. We had great toys. We had robot bears reading.
That's right.
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's great. So let's wrap things up with our new feature that we're going to look at doing every episode. So get ready. And it is the Dan of the Month. Pixel Dan, why don't you take it away?
All right. Well, the Dan of the Month for this episode is the Daniel figure from DC Direct's Sandman line, released in 2001. Woo!
I remember that.
I was there.
I think it actually came out on Halloween in 2001,
right.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. It was part of a whole sort of endless wave that DC Direct did. It was part of the Vertigo title.
Delirium and Desire, I believe, are the other two.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
That wave.
Yep.
All right.
That's
Well, for those...
well.
go ahead.
I was going to say, Daniel Lynch, why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of...
All right. For those not familiar with Daniel from the Sandman, he was spoiler alert, sorry, 20 years later, but he replaces Morpheus after Morpheus moves on. He actually is an amalgam of Morpheus and the Daniel persona. It kind of brought the Endless and Vertigo more into the DC universe. Daniel, as a human, was actually the grandson of the Golden Age Hawkman and Hawkwoman. He was the son of the Silver Scarab and Fury. And if you don't remember the Silver Scarab, you might remember him better as Dr. Fate. He was the Dr. Fate in the 90s series when Jeff Johns wrote the JSA. So it's all very interconnected with that. During the time period that he was born, the Silver Scarab character had died, and he'd gotten trapped in the dreaming because he wasn't ready to go on to the afterlife. And in the 70s, there was a Kirby Sandman, and what Gaiman did with that was he kind of wove the Silver Scarab story into Sandman, and he made that Silver Scarab into the Sandman because we never really knew who he was. And while he was in the dreaming, he hooked up with Fury, and he was conceived, and during his entire gestation, he grew up in the dreaming, but he wasn't born there. And that just kind of had an effect on him, and that's kind of something that made Morpheus stick with him. And so when it was finally time for Morpheus to choose a successor, he picked Daniel. And then Daniel kind of became the new thing, I think probably for the last 6 or 7 issues of the Sandman book. And it was just a really stark and interesting departure because Daniel was the opposite of Morpheus in a lot of ways. Like he's mostly white, and he was just kind of more kind and gentle and close. It was a really neat little ending to that whole series.
And Gaiman was great. If you never read The Sandman, it's a fascinating run because Gaiman still, even though it started tied into the DC universe, you'll see like Mr. Miracle is in the first couple.
Metamorpho, or the Metamorpho Lass, or whatever the girl's name was.
Yeah. And Martian Manhunter is in some of the early ones. And he would just find weird little ways to tie it into the DC universe. And even when it became Vertigo, he was so clever and had such a love of comics that he would find ways to tie it in. And he would take these story arcs that were almost born out of like just one panel from 2 story arcs ago and spin that off into sort of this limited story within the overall run, which was fascinating. And that Silver Scarab one was a great story arc.
Yeah.
So highly recommend Sandman if you haven't read it.
Yeah, whether you're a comic book fan or not, the standalone stories are just amazing and fascinating. They're just great reads, and you don't have to be necessarily well versed in the DC universe because it stands on its own and just really good writing.
Agreed. And Danny, I think you have the figure there in front of you. Can you talk a little bit about the figure?
I do. It is a figure because technically there is some articulation, but not much.
Is it 3 points of articulation?
Well, let's see. It's got neck articulation. The head moves on top of the neck, and it's got his arms are very close to his body, and his hands are kind of up, like if they came together, they could be like cupped together to hold something. And so it just has swivels at the elbows.
But he's got giant sleeves.
He's got giant sleeves that kind of hang down, and he does have articulation at the waist. The legs, which is essentially just is essentially one solid piece. It's a skirt, and it comes down, and there's molded feet underneath, but there's no articulation there. So, like I said, the hands, the lower parts of the arms can swivel together to meet in the center of his body, and the hands are kind of upturned. They're cupped so that he can hold either the roses accessory that he comes with or the human skull that he comes with. He also came with a base that's got a nameplate in the front that says Daniel, and he can stand on that base. Not many paint apps, like Dan mentioned. He's primarily white, so he's just got a couple little paint apps.
He's a white guy with white hair wearing a white robe.
Yeah, exactly.
And white eyes.
Yeah.
And white eyes, yeah.
Right. But, I think this is a good Dan figure to start off our series with. We were talking a little bit offline, the fact that the Endless all have D names, it was appropriate, and I think Gaiman may have named him Daniel just to kind of keep with that D name structure, knowing that he would eventually become the new Dream.
And he's showing up still a bit in DC Comics on and off. Like once they integrated some of the Vertigo stuff back into the DCU, he's popped up every so often in some other story arcs and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, my favorite story with him back Grant Morrison days of JLA, so it was still back in the 90s, but they had to fight Starro, and they kind of made it so that when Starro took someone over, they were kind of in a dream state, and then that was kind of Daniel's like, okay, you're getting into my territory, so he actually teamed up with the Justice League. It was one of the first times that the Vertigo people started to really cross back over. It was really cool at the time. Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and I do want to give a shout out to it is a good figure overall. Like we kind of pick on it a little bit because it's not very articulated and things. and I mean it can do the cupping water pose and it can do like the Messiah pose and that's pretty much it. But visually, it really was just. It looks like it left off the page of that Sandman book. So it's actually I think at one time I had all of those Endless figures, and over time I think I've sold them all. But of course I kept the Daniel because it's Daniel. Why would I sell that?
Right, exactly. And I think that was the second Daniel product that DC had done, DC Direct. They had also done, they did a set of bookends, like statuary bookends, and one was the Dream version of Sandman, and then the Daniel version on the other side.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. I still have those. They're in my storage unit.
Yeah, it's like they're holding the orbs on either side?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So... yeah, so that's something fun we're going to do from time to time. And by time to time, I mean every episode.
Yeah, we'll regale you with the every day.
Yeah, so
every episode, same difference.
So if you listeners have any suggestions as to Dan, Danny, Daniel, Danielle action figures that exist out there that you want us to talk about, let us know.
Let's make it a challenge. Think of a Daniel figure that we
don't already have on our list.
And we'll be honest. We'll tell you that hey, we didn't think about it because obviously, there's some room for we could fib, but we won't. So if you come up with a Daniel figure that we don't already have on our list, we'll give you a shout out.
And I haven't told you guys this yet, but Pixel Dan knows because he was there, and we were talking to Cornboy about the new Legion of Dan's podcast, and he. Eric had listened to it, but Cornboy hadn't. He was like, oh, I got to listen to that. And we were talking about how we were going to do this Dan of the Month thing for Dan figures. And he goes, oh, well, you can, if you start running out of stuff, you can get kind of obscure. And do the Danger Girls. Like, oh, that is the stretch, buddy.
And
Hey.
I hope we make it that far.
Podcast 500. Let's go for it.
I was gonna say, yeah, that'll be like one of the end. Like, if we ever get to the end of the show, we end with the Danger Girls just for CB.
Right from the bottom of that barrel. Well, thank you again to everyone for listening to the first episode, and now by the time you are hearing us talk, you'll have listened to the second episode. But keep chatting with us. It's been great to see the reception. It's a blast talking to you guys.
Absolutely.
Same here.
I know we're all very busy, and even after we did the first episode, we were kind of like, oh, we should totally do this more.
Yeah. Well,
but
it's so fun.
Scheduling this one,
scheduling's always rough, but it is always fun just to kind of like just geek out about toys. It's just, I love that. I love just actually getting to have conversations and just be nerds.
Yep.
Absolutely. And if there's other topics you want us to discuss, hit us up with that too. We'd be glad to do that. We love all that stuff. So thank you, everyone. That's it for episode 2. I'm Daniel Pickett.
I'm Dan Newman.
I'm Daniel Lynch.
And I'm Pixel Dan.
And thank you so much for listening.